your forecast first. Sponsored by Matex Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.
Well, it's been another chilly night out there, especially with those winds that continue to howl. Readings in the 10 to 15 mile per hour range. That's far better than what we had earlier today when it was gusting closer to 30 miles per hour. On the satellite radar picture, notice the rain showers we had this morning all pushing off to the east. But now as the skies clear, the temperature is really starting to drop. 42 in Champaign, 44 in Effingham, 43 in Springfield. And tomorrow, it's not going to warm up a whole lot. We're only talking the upper 40s, but the sun does return. How long? Let's stick around. We'll look at that with your weekend forecast when we come back. WCIA 3 News starts right now.
Now on WCIA 3 News.
Indoor dining is no longer allowed in Region 3. Why that has some restaurant owners now fearing the worst. Plus, one police department has started using body cameras, what they hope it will reveal. And the Champaign County Clerk is facing a lawsuit, what the Republican Party is accusing him of doing.
You're watching your local news leader. This is WCIA 3 News at 10.
It's a challenge, you know, because we felt like there was finally like a pattern of normality.
But that's now short-lived. Restaurant and bar owners in Region 3 are bracing for a tough start to the winter. While the weather gets colder, restaurants will have to shut down their dining rooms. Good evening. I'm Paul Cicchini. Jessica's on assignment. The new rules take effect Sunday. WCIA 3's Cole Henke's live in Springfield. So, Cole, what's going on now? These restaurant owners, they thought things were going okay, but now they got to close the doors.
That's right, Paul. Region 3 posted its third straight day of a positivity rate over 8%. And now some new rules are going to be put into place. And those new rules are a restaurant owner's worst nightmare. Starting Sunday, indoor dining in bars and restaurants will be shut down in Region 3. After posting positivity rates of over 8% for 3 straight days, the state's new mitigations will go into place. And it's left Darcy's Pint owner, Hallie Pearsall, fearing the worst.
Well, very disappointed, very frustrated. You know, obviously it's a huge deal for us.
Pearsall isn't aiming her frustrations at any one target. She thinks there's plenty of blame to go around.
So honestly, I'm frustrated with a lot of things. I'm frustrated that our industry seems to be targeted. And I'm also frustrated that maybe people weren't doing their part in making sure that this didn't happen again.
Outdoor dining isn't viable anymore, at least how it was able to work over the summer. The owners of Casa Real are trying to outfit their tent with more heaters to last through the winter.
We're going to do the best we can, as I said, cope with times and weather and the situation, make the best out of it.
Springfield has been enforcing the masking and distancing guidelines with fines, but county officials across the region struggle to actually enforce those original rules. That will only become more difficult with the new restrictions. Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder says he won't enforce the new rules starting on Springfield until he looks over the governor's orders next week. Pearsall is not planning on defying the orders, but doesn't know what the next few weeks could bring.
I feel like it's still my duty to keep my staff and my customers safe. But at some point, you know, do I change my mind and break the rules? I don't know. I can't say for sure one way or another.
In order to get back to Phase 4, Region 3 will have to post a positivity rate of 6.5% or less for 3 straight days. But if the region continues on this trend and posts a positivity rate of over 8% for the next 2 weeks, then more mitigations could be put into place. And those would include a shutdown of non-essential retail options and a shutdown on non-essential elective surgeries at hospitals. Paul?
Could be tough. People just have to remember to put a mask on, wash their hands, and of course remember social distancing. Cole, thanks. Region 6 could soon be under more restrictions as well. That spans from Decatur to Danville and from Watseka to Alney. It's been at more than 8% positivity rate for 2 days. State guidelines say, as Cole mentioned, 3 days in a row. That means stricter rules. They haven't made the announcement yet, but it would put Region 6 under what's called Tier 1 mitigation, as we just discussed. No outdoor or indoor dining, rather, at restaurants and bars. They can stay open no later than 11, and they can reopen no earlier than 6.
Just because you may have been meeting with your grandkids or your kids or whoever, that aren't living in your household, If you're doing that now with community transmissions so high, there's a higher likelihood that you could get infected from that.
She says they're also concerned with large weddings, some as big as 250 people. They say if those are planned and the health district finds out about it, they'll likely show up and tell people to leave. The state's positivity rate has also gone up slightly. It's now at 6.9%. More than 6,300 new COVID cases were announced. That's another state record, obviously a bad one. Over 3,000 people were in the hospital as of last night with the virus. 643 in the ICU, 269 on ventilators. 56 more people died in the last 24 hours. That includes 4 in central Illinois. 9,700 people in the state have died a COVID-related death since this pandemic began. A man in Springfield is charged with intimidation after being accused of threatening to blow up a Black Lives Matter sign in front of a church. The Sangamon County State's Attorney says Caleb May called the pastor of the First Church of Brethren, which displayed the sign on its property. The state's attorney says May threatened to blow up the sign with the intention of forcing the church to remove it.
Hate crime, intimidation, and harassment based upon the exercise of every citizen's right to free speech cannot be tolerated in our community.
May's also charged with telephone harassment. If convicted, he faces up to 5 years in prison. A man from Taylorville was killed in a shooting in Florida Tuesday. 2 men working a construction job at Panama City Square got in an argument. Police say that's when 40-year-old David Donaldson shot 56-year-old Gordon McKinney. A co-worker rushed to help McKinney, and they say Donaldson pointed a gun at him, too. Donaldson confessed to the shooting. He's now charged with second-degree murder. State police are still searching for a man who disappeared in March. Daniel Crosby was last seen near the Tri-County Fairgrounds. ISP started investigating his disappearance in May. Police are now asking anyone with any information to give them a call. There's heightened pressure for police accountability and transparency across the country. In central Illinois, the Danville Police Department started using body cameras to help meet that demand. WCIA3's Jennifer Jensen joins us now. So, Jennifer, this is new for them.
Paul, it certainly is. The officers just started using the body cameras this week. It's a tool that the police chief says will help them give a clear picture of what actually happens at scenes.
Something that people don't realize is how things can go from somewhat benign to catastrophic in just a matter of a second.
With each call for service, police officers face uncertainty. But unless you're there to see it, you wouldn't know what really happened. Until now, the Danville Police Department is suiting up their officers with body cameras.
It's evidence. It's evidence of the call that they were on.
The footage gives people a perspective behind the scenes of law enforcement.
It also can let the community know what we are dealing with and some of the situations that you may not understand unless you see it actually on a screen yourself.
Chief Chris Yates says the body cameras will help with investigations, monitor oversights within the department, and provide a tool to better serve people in Danville.
It's going to give additional guarantees of transparency.
Our body cameras turn on automatically when our emergency lights come on in our squad cars. And then we also have the ability to activate them with a button on the camera itself.
When Chief Yates became the head of the department, he says the use of body cameras was one of his top priorities.
We've worked very hard in maintaining and rebuilding and strengthening different relationships that we have with our community.
Right now, the department has 28 body cameras. In the next year to year and a half, Chief Yates says the goal is to have one for all 65 officers. In total, this cost the department about $92,000 with help from a state grant. That includes the servers, internal storage space for that video, and the camera equipment itself. Paul, back to you.
Obviously something that's more common now with departments across the country, and it's certainly been helpful. Jennifer, thanks. The Champaign Police Department first heard what people had to say in listening sessions. Now they want to take it a step further with study circles, and the department wants to have more in-depth discussions with people in the community about the future of policing in the city. Topics include subjects such as race relations, training and education, and the role of police responding to calls involving mental illness and other social issues. Study circles would be held on Zoom and would be limited to 50 people. Meeting dates are Thursday, November 12th, Friday, November 20th, and Monday, December 7th. A man in Tolonos fighting for justice for his dog. Roxy was hit by a car Tuesday night. Her owner, Rob Cunningham, says it was done on purpose. He says the woman who did it was visiting one of his roommates. At some point, He got into an argument with her. He claims at first it seemed like she hit him, but then she had a different target.
At that time, my dog walked around the corner to look and see what was going on, and she just, she floored it. My dog rolled up underneath the car. She drug her for about a block, but she never stopped.
Cunningham says he filed a police report. We reached out to police but have not heard back. New at 10, the Champaign County Republican Party is taking the Champaign County Clerk to court. A lawsuit has been filed against Aaron Ammons, claiming he violated election code, including tabulating ballots before he was supposed to during the primary election and without proper staffing. It claims he sent ballots for the general election to people who didn't live in Champaign County. Republican leaders in the county also claim he refused to give them access to information, including a list of voters and where vote-by-mail ballots were sent and received. Among other claims, Ammons didn't directly deny the accusations, but responded with a statement saying in part, quote, I suggest Mark Sheldon, Stan Harper, and Dee Schonkweiler focus on why Republicans are losing race after race in Champaign County. Clearly, they have time on their hands, and there are much more effective ways to use it, rather than lying to the voters of Champaign County. The lawsuit in its entirety is asking for Ammons to comply with election code. For a more detailed look at that lawsuit, go to WCIA.com. And for a look at the countdown until polls open on Election Day in Illinois, there's one on your screen. Of course, early voting continues now. A teenager was in the hospital after a car wreck last week. We'll check in on his recovery tonight. Plus, trunk or treat normally involves people visiting cars for candy. How that script was slightly flipped tonight. And not sure you want to trick or treat this year? What you can do instead.